Somewhere in the middle of this summer's World Cup run, something unusual happened. A global superstar, who had every reason to stay guarded and diplomatic, instead started openly gushing about the very fans cheering him on. Erling Haaland spent 6 weeks in the United States, delivering one of the most dominant individual tournament performances in recent memory. And along the way, he repeatedly went out of his way to praise the American crowd supporting him, describing them in terms far warmer and more specific than the usual polite athlete clichés. In this video, we are going to walk through exactly what Haaland said about American fans, explore the specific moments that shaped that affection, and break down why this mutual love story became one of the most heartwarming subplots of the entire tournament. So let us get into everything that unfolded. To understand why this connection felt so genuine, you have to remember where Haaland was coming from before this tournament even began. Norway had not qualified for a Men's World Cup since 1998, 2 full years before Haaland was even born. And he had spent his entire career hearing about how frustrating it was to sit at home watching other nations compete on the sport's biggest stage. When Norway finally secured qualification with a dominant win in Italy, Haaland admitted afterward that he felt happy but honestly more relieved than anything else, acknowledging the enormous pressure that had been building around this campaign. That long-awaited arrival in the United States gave the entire experience an extra layer of meaning from the very beginning. And it did not take long for Haaland to start noticing exactly how the fans in this country were welcoming him. Before we get further into what Haaland actually said about American fans, take a second to hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed, because we are covering every heartwarming storyline from this tournament as it continues. It only takes a second, and it genuinely helps the channel. Alright, let us keep going. The moment that really put this storyline on the map came when Haaland was asked directly about his impressions of the American crowds during the tournament. Rather than offering a generic, media-trained response, he answered with genuine specificity, saying that he genuinely liked Americans and found them kind of hilarious, adding that he simply liked the way they carried themselves. That kind of unprompted, specific praise for a country's fans is relatively uncommon among international athletes, most of whom tend to stick to safe, interchangeable compliments about atmosphere and energy. Haaland's comment felt different precisely because it read as an honest observation rather than a rehearsed answer, and it spread quickly across American social media as fans embraced the idea that one of the tournament's biggest breakout stars was genuinely enjoying their company. Part of why Haaland's affection for American fans felt so believable is that Americans had already fallen for him first, and for reasons that had very little to do with soccer tactics. Throughout the tournament, Haaland leaned fully into a light-hearted, almost goofy public persona, documenting his World Cup journey through his own YouTube channel and repeatedly reminding viewers of a simple mantra he lives by, saying that one thing in life is to never take yourself too seriously and to just enjoy whatever is happening around you. That carefree attitude showed up constantly, whether it was him tapping a young mascot on the shoulder before Norway's match against Brazil and grinning as the child excitedly shouted his name, or laughing on the pitch during the England quarterfinal while his close friend Jude Bellingham marked him defensively. Combine that easygoing charm with his towering 6'5" frame and his ability to physically dominate opposing defenses, and it created a contrast American fans found impossible to resist, someone who looked terrifying on the field and completely approachable off of it. Haaland's appreciation for American fans was not confined to interviews and social media posts. It showed up directly in how he engaged with people during Norway's travels around the country. His goofy videos exploring different American cities became a defining feature of the team's run, with Haaland and his teammates leaving an impression everywhere they traveled, from wowing crowds in North Carolina and Boston to captivating fans in New York and Dallas. He was frequently spotted interacting playfully with fans who recognized him on the street, embracing the attention rather than avoiding it, and treating those spontaneous encounters as part of the enjoyment of the whole experience, rather than an inconvenience that came with his growing fame. Norway's colorful traveling supporters, known for their now famous Viking Row celebration, brought their own energy to every stop along the way. And Haaland embraced that traveling circus atmosphere, rather than treating it as a distraction from the seriousness of tournament competition. Beyond just the fans themselves, Haaland made clear that his appreciation extended to the tournament experience as a whole. Describing his time at the World Cup, he said that honestly every single thing about the tournament being held in the United States had been amazing. A broad and enthusiastic endorsement that stood out, given how demanding and physically taxing a deep World Cup run typically is. He also reflected on the surreal nature of Norway's specific path through the competition, noting that beating Brazil felt kind of crazy for Norwegians, and that following it up by playing England in a World Cup quarter-final held in the United States felt genuinely special. That sense of wonder, even from a player already accustomed to competing at the highest levels of club football in Europe, suggested that something about experiencing this particular tournament in front of these particular fans had made a real and lasting impression on him. Commentators who followed this storyline closely pointed to something specific about American sports fan culture that seemed to genuinely click with Haaland's own personality. American crowds, particularly casual fans discovering soccer for the first time through this tournament, tend to bring an unfiltered, enthusiastic energy that differs somewhat from the more tradition-bound supporter cultures found in many European football environments. For a player who has always leaned into humor and spontaneity rather than rigid seriousness, that kind of open, expressive fan energy appeared to genuinely match his own approach to the sport, creating a natural chemistry between his personality and the audience cheering him on that felt distinct from how he might be received in a more traditionally reserved football setting. What made this entire love affair even more compelling to American fans was how consistently modest Haaland remained despite his surging popularity. Even as his personal brand grew rapidly throughout the tournament, with social media algorithms increasingly built around content featuring him, Haaland kept a notably grounded perspective on Norway's actual chances, repeatedly emphasizing gratitude simply for the opportunity to compete on the world's biggest stage against the best teams in the world rather than dwelling on lofty expectations. That combination of skyrocketing fame paired with genuine humility became one of the defining traits fans associated with his entire American experience, reinforcing the idea that his affection for the country's fans never felt performative or calculated, but instead like the honest reaction of someone genuinely enjoying an experience he had waited his whole life to have. Once Haaland's comments about American fans began circulating widely, the response online was overwhelmingly warm. Fans expressed genuine surprise and appreciation at hearing a global superstar speak so specifically and positively about them, with many pointing out how rare it is for an athlete at his level to offer this kind of direct, personal praise rather than a generic soundbite. Comment sections filled with fans reciprocating the sentiment, thanking Haaland for embracing the country the way he had, and expressing hope that this connection would continue even after his own team's tournament run had ended. That mutual exchange of genuine appreciation is part of what elevated this storyline beyond a simple compliment, turning it into a recognizable symbol of the broader crossover moment this World Cup represented for American soccer culture. For American fans, watching this relationship develop in real time carried a special kind of charm precisely because it felt so unscripted. Nobody engineered Haaland's viral moments or his warm comments about American fans. They emerged naturally over the course of 6 weeks as he traveled the country, competed at the highest level, and simply let his personality come through in every interview and social media post along the way. That authenticity is exactly why so many commentators drew comparisons to the way a beloved fictional character can occasionally capture a nation's heart, arguing that Haaland's blend of humility, humor, and physical dominance created a version of that same phenomenon playing out in real time on the world's biggest sporting stage. At the end of the day, this story became one of the most heartwarming subplots of the entire World Cup, precisely because the affection ran in both directions. America fell for Haaland's goofy charm, his towering presence on the field, and his genuine humility off of it, while Haaland, in turn, kept expressing real appreciation for the fans, the cities, and the overall experience of competing in front of American crowds for the very first time. Whether or not Norway ever returns to a World Cup with this same magic, This summer will likely be remembered as the moment an entire country fell in love with a player they barely knew existed just weeks earlier. And the feeling, by every indication, was completely mutual. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you are subscribed so you catch our next video the moment it drops, because a summer like this one deserves to be remembered in full.